Well, I know a lot of very wealthy people who are not
Hmm.
very happy. And I think for me, it's one of the things I never want to get caught in that trap of chasing the money. Profit over passion never works. I've never seen anybody sad on a jet ski, let me say that. So, if you can afford to go out there and buy things, I think it brings temporary happiness. But I think true joy comes from whenever you're happy with yourself. If you're happy when you have nothing, you'll be happy when you have everything.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests that I brought on and that I'm bringing on this year. And so without further ado, let's get right into this one. We got a special guest today. I told you guys in my little public speaking series of how I got into public speaking that I had a Great American Speak Off contest that I went to back in February of this year and had a great time there. Didn't make it to the top 5 finalists, didn't win, but hey, there's always next year. During the competition, though, I got to meet this guy named Bigg Vinny, as we call him, and he's a great guy, real down to earth, and he actually advanced a lot further than I did. He did a great job up there on stage, which is extremely impressive because there's a lot of great speakers, and to advance even further, it's just an accomplishment in its own right. So, Vinny, man, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, man, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, first off, thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. You were kind of a light around that place, man. Every time I see you, just people just lit up around you. So it says a lot for your personality and who you are. And I appreciate you letting me come on and be in front of your audience and your crowd. So and now you have to return the favor and be on my podcast as well. So uh, basically, I've been on my own since I was about 14 years old. Had a lot of things to overcome in my early childhood days and all that. But I was blessed to be have a gift of music. God gave me a gift of music and signed a record deal with Toby Keith whenever I was 22 years old on Show Dog Universal and toured for years with him. And then found myself at 500 pounds, laying in a hospital bed, Super Bowl Sunday in 2011, and I was blessed to go on a TV show called The Biggest Loser that year, and I lost over 211 pounds, completely changed my life, saved my life. For the last 13 years, I've been really focused on helping others with losing weight, keeping it off, and it's not just about the how much you weigh on the scale, but your mind, your mentality on how you feel about yourself on a daily basis, and all that kind of stuff. And I guess my life now is just to live to help others realize their worth and just know that hey, you're worth
Yeah.
the things you're willing to work for, but it ain't always going to be easy. You're going to have to go out there and do some work. And I guess my
Yeah.
elevator pitch. I didn't really have a business. When we come out there to that speak off, I speak. I talk. I entertain people. And so as I was getting out there to do that, they're like, "Oh, you're supposed to have a business you're pitching and all this other stuff." I'm like, "Well, crap!" So I made up overall you on the spot, and kind of figured that out. My wife does have an app called Go Forth Wellness. You can look her up, and she does the same thing. She helps people with their mind, body, and soul, and does all that. And we are in the process now of creating overall you to help people with their mind, body, and soul. But main thing for me is just to get out there and every day be a light to this world, spread the love of Jesus Christ around the country, and that's kind of my goal every day is just to be a positive force in somebody's life. If I can add positivity, if I can add light, not add nothing bad to your day, then I feel like I'm doing my job, what God would have me do. So
No, 100%. I love that you mentioned that too, man. Partially because like health is wealth. Right? A lot of people try and get to that
absolutely,
money, try and get to that bag, and forget themselves in the process. It's very easy, especially when you get into the business world, especially when you're
yeah,
pursuing things that you also genuinely enjoy doing. Right? Either some people are getting into business out of struggle and survival. Some people are getting into business because they love something and they want to find a way to do it even more.
yep,
But either way, you can get lost in it very quickly, and usually when we're going through these ups and downs of the business world or just life in general, we always tend to put ourselves last, and our health seems to always be that thing that we always kind of just like put aside and we'll take care of later until we're forced to take care of it,
yeah.
right?
Well, I know a lot of very wealthy people who are not very happy. And I
Yeah.
think for me, it's one of the things I never want to get caught in that trap of chasing the money. Profit over passion never works.
Yeah.
Not saying that I've never seen anybody sad on a jet ski. Let me say that. So, if you can afford to go out there and buy things, I think it brings temporary happiness. But I think true joy comes from whenever you're happy with yourself. If you're happy when you have nothing, you'll be happy when you have everything. But if you're not happy when
Yeah.
you have nothing, just because you gain the whole world, what good is it if you gain the whole world but you lose yourself along the way? And
Yeah.
I have seen people do that. I've seen people sacrifice their well-being. I've seen them sacrifice their morals and everything else just to make the dollar. And at the end of the day, they end up very unhappy, regardless if they have everything money can buy. And a guy that I've watched closely for a lot of my life is Jim Carrey. And one of his famous sayings is that goes, "I wish that everybody could get rich and famous and have everything they ever wanted, just so they could see that that's not the answer and that's not what's going to make them truly happy or give them joy." Like I said, happiness can be temporary, but true joy, I think, comes in the fact of being proud of yourself, being happy with yourself, being proud of your life, knowing that you're living up to not necessarily expectations, but your moral beliefs. I think when you wake up every day and you're a good person and you feel good about what you bring into this world, that brings you joy. I think if you wake up like, oh yeah, well I'm going to make $1 million today. Well, great. What are you going to do with that $1 million? And I
No,
think
100%.
that one of the biggest things for me is, and I've been blessed in my life to make good money some years, and there's been years I've barely got by in the entertainment industry. 2020 was a big old kick in the head for all of us because I went from having 150 shows that year to having nothing, and went online, started working online, pivoted, um, created some other streams of income and things like that. But it was a big hit, for us, and it taught me a valuable lesson not to put all your eggs in one. I don't necessarily believe in a plan B, in what you're doing, but what I do believe in is having multiple plans, that you're working on consecutively. I know that a lot of entrepreneurs will teach you, oh man, you just got to find that one thing and just go for that, and that's great until that one thing don't work. So, or if it's not working as quickly as you would like it, I think that we can always have multiple things we're working on. I get joy out of having multiple things. I own a little resort in Perry County, Tennessee. We do canoeing, camping, kayaking, all that kind of stuff. And that was my first kind of real estate investment. And then I still do my music. I have a management company where I manage young artists. I have a stage and production company. So all these little things. Now all of it kind of goes back to entertainment at the resort. I put on entertainment at the resort. So it kind of always goes back to the entertainment industry for me, but I was able to look at all the different ways that you can make money doing the thing that you're passionate about and something that makes you happy. I enjoy putting others on stage. I enjoy helping others kind of realize their side of the business and what they want to do in music and entertainment as a whole. So, but yeah, man, it's one of those deals where I learned a long time ago that you got to wake up every day and be happy, regardless. It doesn't mean you're not striving for something else, but if you're not happy with nothing, you won't be happy with everything. So.
No, 100%. There's a quote you said in there, and I heard something similar, just slightly different. You said, "Why gain the whole world if you lose yourself in the process?" When the version of it that I heard is, "Why what worth while is it to gain the world if you lose your soul in the
Yeah.
process?" And a lot of people forfeit themselves, use their souls,
Yeah.
their morals, and all the above to get access to all these materialistic
Yeah.
things that feel good in the moment but never bring true joy, right? As you mentioned, and I think like a lot of people this is why too, like sometimes like even my girl, I'll be talking to her sometimes, like the way you say certain things, those specific words mean certain things even though you try to use them in context, like, and that makes it mean something different. The word itself still has its own meaning. And like happiness is something that from my understanding has always been something that's been extra, what's it called, external, extrinsic, there we go. And whereas joy has always been something that I understood to be intrinsic. And with like happiness and joy, happiness is just a byproduct of whatever it is that you're doing, whereas joy is almost like a state of being, right? And like a lot of people are always in search outside of themselves for the answer. It's funny, she's actually calling me now.
Yeah.
I think she heard us talk about her on a
Answer it.
podcast,
Answer
but
it.
I'll call her back after. But but yeah, but I love that you mentioned that as well, and then you also mentioned a couple other things too about not having a plan B. And I just thought back to football, like our game plan is to win the game when we play, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if plan A1 doesn't work, right? Then we have plan A2 and then A3, and we have different ways to try and get to that same goal. And the goal is to win the game. If
Absolutely.
plan A doesn't work, we're not thinking about the next game. We're focused on plan A is winning the
Yeah.
game. That's it. There is no plan B, but there's different ways to go
Oh
about
yeah.
plan
Your
A
plan. Your
so that
plan.
we make
Your
sure to
plan can
win.
change right in the middle of winning the game for sure. And just
Yeah.
that saying is actually biblical. It's Luke 9:25. It says, "For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and is himself
But loses his
destroyed or
soul.
lost. That's the New King James
Mm-hmm.
Version, if you will, the translation. But for what is it? It's Luke, like I said, Luke 9:25. So if you want to put that in the notes or whatever, but I mean that's really the
Mm-hmm.
truth. If you go out there and you lose yourself in the middle of all this, and we've seen people do it. You've seen celebrities along the way that started off one way, and they get a little fame, a little fortune. They bend their morals just a little bit here and a little bit there, and the next thing you know, they're a completely different person than who they were when people originally started falling in love with them. And like I
Yeah.
said, it doesn't matter when you get all the money and all the stuff in the world if you don't have yourself, and if you're completely different than who you truly want to be. But yeah, man, winning the game is really what's the Miley Cyrus song? It's the climb. I think part of the
Yeah.
joy comes from figuring it out. Like how am I going to make it through this month, and how am I going to make my money here, and what am I going to pivot when something goes wrong? A lot of times, people become a master of their situation whenever they're able to, face the adversity and then fix the issue, and find a way through it, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to so many times I think people everything's going great and they're doing great and look at everything, and then they get hit with that first little piece of adversity and they just fall, and they just keep falling. And that's where I think I've always been blessed is God's always given me that positive mentality of, hey man, it's gonna be okay. Whatever it is, we're gonna get through it, we're gonna make it, it's gonna be great. So
Yeah. No, 100%. For me, I have a similar mindset. Like I call it, naive
yeah,
optimism. You can't tell me anything, man. Like it's for whatever reason, I just think it's all gonna work out because it always is,
yeah,
right? Especially, I love the fact that you also have a strong belief in God, bro. Because I think so many times in business, you hear all these successful people who may be of a other denomination, other
yeah,
faith, or other religion, right? And it's like not to say that does make them bad people or whatever, whatever. It's just to say that it's always more reassuring when you see someone who got it and made
yeah,
it, but also still has the same core fundamental beliefs that you have.
yeah,
And as you get higher and up under like the business world, I guess you could say, it almost becomes harder to find people who are willing to openly talk about faith. And like for me personally, like there's so many verses in the Bible that talk about like do not be fearful, do not be
yep,
timid, right? Talks about how standing in faith and courage, and how he has things in plan, and it's all going to work out for you if you just go along with its plans. It's like for me, if believe in like a God that has created the universe, right, and created the world and all that we
yeah,
have to see in 6 days and rested on the seventh, and I believe that for me it's like, and I know that he has my back. How can I show up in this world and be paralyzed by fear? And that's not to say I don't ever get, have fear or am nervous. Like I'm not, I'm also am human. Like I get scared and stuff like that, especially talking on stage, right? When we were at the Great American Speak Off, man, that whole day we were competing, I was nervous, right?
yeah,
But also it's not because like I'm terrified, but it's also because I care too as much. Like I
yeah.
want to perform well. Like I don't want to go out there and blow. I care a lot about this. And so it's one of those things which is like you got to move forth in courage. And I love the word courage because like it's moving despite the fear, not trying to
100%.
be fearless.
Yeah, and so fear is a sin, right? But fear is a sin only if you let it keep you from doing what God's plan is for you. And, if you feel called to go
Mm,
out there and speak to people and spread what the gospel, the word gospel means good news. If you feel led to go out there and do that and be this light to the world, and it doesn't mean you're speaking doctrine every day, that you're trying to tell everybody everything about the Bible every day. It just means that, hey, God is using you as a messenger of hope. God's using you as a messenger of good. But if you let your fear of going out there and somebody making fun of you or somebody talking bad about you, because it happened to me, my probably one of my greatest assets is my fear of regret has always been way bigger than my fear of failure,
mm,
and I'm not
yeah.
scared to fail. You know what I mean? Now I still get nervous every time I'm about to write a check or about to put that money down on something, a new adventure, a new thing. But I would much rather wake up, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, like, well, that didn't work. Let's move on to something else. Than to wake up 5 or 10 years from now and say, man, I wonder if I would have done that, how it would have worked out. What if I would have? And the God is out there. He's got our backs. Now that doesn't mean that everything's going to work out every time. A lot of people think, well, when I become a Christian, I'll never have any more problems again because God's got my back. But you got to go read the book of
Yeah.
Job. That God, when you're highly favored by God, you're also highly favored by the devil. and that means
Yeah.
they both want to fight for that soul. They both want to fight for your influence. They both want to fight for, for what's going on there. And the devil can come and offer you worldly things, things that we all want. We all want to have, a better place to raise our families, a nicer house. We all want to have more money. We all want to. I don't really care that much about cars, to be honest with you. But some of my buddies, they have a certain car they want, and me, I'm like, I don't care as long as mine runs and got air conditioning. I'll if they don't even have radio, I'll sing in the car. I don't care about that. But I want it to be safe for my kids, and you want those worldly things that so many times we believe are what make us successful. A lot of people do believe that that bigger house, that nicer car, the better jewelry, the all that stuff means you're successful, and it really doesn't. Now it means that you've made money. It means that you've profited well off whatever you've done. But again, what good is a profit if you broke 100 people's backs to get there, and you hurt other people in the process, but you got all this money? Well, great, but look how many lives you might have ruined along the way. And like I said, I've been offered the devil's money twice. I've been offered the what you would the temptation. Whenever the devil took Jesus up on the hill and said, if you bow to me, all
Yeah.
this would be yours. I've been offered that 2 times, and both times turned it down, and would have changed my life completely, changed my family's life. But I knew it was the devil's money. So we don't
Yeah.
take the devil's money. When you and the way people are like, how will I know, what's what? I was like, when you don't feel right about taking it, when you feel like, hey, there's something wrong here, your gut will tell you, your heart will tell you, especially if you got Jesus in your heart, he'll tell you every time. You'll get that conviction over you, and you just know not to take it. And both times would have completely, made me never have to worry about money ever again. But both times it would have been me openly knowing that I was taking the devil's money. So, and I won't get into detail on those things in this podcast. We'll save that for another time. But
Yeah.
it's interesting. So just know, man, you got this great spirit about you. And I don't know how you're pretty young. How old are you?
I'm
Yeah.
22.
So you're at the age I was when I signed my first record deal. And life comes at you fast, man. Just if I could
Yeah.
encourage you on anything is read your Bible, spend some time with God daily, pray before you make decisions. The Bible says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." So before you go into making a big decision, pray about it first and see what God tells you, and pray about it with an open mind and an open heart. And God will give you an answer on stuff. It doesn't mean you're not going to make the wrong decision sometimes, because I promise you that's inevitable. But pray about it, and just try to hear what God is telling you and leading you to do. And I think you're going to be a massive light to this world. I think you're going to have a massive platform. And like I said, you were one of those people that was walking around that day that I'm like, okay, this dude's got something. He's got that it factor. And like I said, I love the event, man. The event was so cool. I feel like, obviously there's some people there that they want to speak because they want to sell their business, and I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with that. But I also think that some of them are just not natural speakers. They're going to have to work really, really hard at it and really hone in their message and be in front of that audience that is always going to be wanting to buy what they have. Whereas I think a guy
Yeah.
like you, Akeem, which I loved Akeem. I don't know if you got to have him on your podcast yet, but um,
No, I
yeah,
haven't.
I'll connect y'all. You got to get him on. He's great. He was on my podcast, and he was just a ball of it. He was one had the blue jacket, had the
With the Shark
yeah, the
Tank.
Shark Tank guy. Yeah, and
Yep. Yeah.
but
He was on my boy's podcast actually.
yeah,
From out here
oh cool,
locally, where
yeah,
he's my boy that lives here in the same
yeah.
town as me. He's on. I just honestly, I don't even have his contact
I'll
info.
connect
That's the
y'all.
only reason
I'll
I.
connect y'all. He's awesome, man. He's just a great person, But he's a natural, like he's
Yeah.
an entertainer, He's a speaker. He's got that. He could probably go on any stage in the world and make people want to buy what he's got, even if it's not his ideal, what they call avatar or whatever. And I think you would be the same
Yeah.
way, and especially as you grow and continue to find yourself. I'm like that. I could get up on any stage. I mean, honestly, whenever I was coming, my story is my story. That doesn't change, but the way you tell your story might change based on what the criteria of what you're speaking for.
Yeah.
I
But
thought it was
yeah. But
interesting
the
at that thing
grading
because at first it was
thing
like,
is.
oh, they told us all week, oh, you got to have this business. So Grant only cares about the business. And then about, when we were I made the top 10, but the top 30 got to
Yeah.
go speak with him. And when they told us, hey,
Grant and
you can't pitch a business. And I'm like, the whole week you told me I was supposed to be pitching a business. So I created a business just for that. And
yeah.
then, 10 minutes before you're going in, you got to completely change what you're doing, which I think that's you got to be able to think on your toes. And then made the top 10 and was really blessed to do that. And thought, man, they had some great speakers. I mean, just a lot of but I agreed with something I saw Grant say when we weren't out there. I heard several speakers that very easily could have been in that top 30, top 10. We weren't in the same group, me and you, but I thought did just as
Yeah.
well as anybody that got on the stage that day. And I loved all the different styles. You had Oric, who was more of a preacher, kind of style, standing up there with, kind of doing what he would probably do on Sunday morning when he was getting the Holy Spirit. You had um, Brian Josie, who was kind of my dude, man, because I just loved him, and
Yeah.
he was a professional wrestler, and he knew how to work the mic, and he got you hyped up. But it was based off of his story and what he was doing. I just really thought, man, this thing was really cool, and what I gained out of this whole thing, I just met so many great contacts, so many people. So if I would tell anybody to do it, man, go do it, because if you win, cool, you get to go and be part of the what's it, Growth Con thing. I didn't really know who Grant Cardone was
Yeah.
before I signed up for this, just so you know. I had seen him on the Billionaire Show, but I didn't really know his story or any of that kind of stuff. So I was
Yeah.
walking into something I had no clue about. But I would go just to make the contacts. I mean, there's going to be business contacts. There's going to be contacts where you're going to be able to share each other's, followings and things like that. I would highly suggest anybody, just go down there and be part of it.
Yeah, literally. So in the middle of like us recording this right now, so like I do a lot of my solo episodes and like
Yeah.
series. So the series I'm currently doing is like I've been to quite a few conferences. I've been to like
Hmm.
about like in the past 2 years or 2.5 years or so, about like 13, like in-person events, which is quite a bit. Mainly last year because I had scholarship money, so
Yeah.
I was using all my scholarship money to fly out and go to these
Come
different
on with
conferences.
it.
Man, all my scholarship money went to go to conferences, all of
Yeah.
it. Um, and then, but for me, that was just like I knew that once I dropped out, like you still need to get educated. Now, the way that you get educated
Experience.
doesn't have to be in traditional education and traditional schooling. That's the one thing I
Yep.
learned. And so as I got into business entrepreneurship, I was like, well, I'm not going ever back to college, even though I did great while I was there. I
Yep.
was like, F it. I knew it was a scam going in. The only reason I went is because I didn't know any other route. And now that I know that there's other paths out
Yeah.
there, it's like, man, I'm gonna go to all these conferences. And if I need to learn something, I'm gonna go to a conference
Yeah.
specific or a person that specifically does what I need to do or does what I want to do, and just go there and soak up as much information or go to that person, probably bring him on the podcast, right? And so, pick their brain and ask them what I need to learn so I can go further faster when I having to pay. And it's that the thing that I get annoyed about is like, especially with a lot of people in the older generation, is they think that school is the only source of information that's credible and reliable. And it's like there's nothing more credible and reliable than real life practical,
Well,
in the mud
yeah.
experience.
And a big problem with that is because I'm not the older generation, but I'm 40, and we were taught every day you got to go to college. If you don't go to college, you're a loser. You're this or that. Even our schools told us that, and they didn't want to teach us about entrepreneurship, and they didn't want to teach us about how you can create your own business. And man, it's like, hey, you don't want people say you don't want to be a plumber the rest of your life. I know guys that started off as a plumber. Now they have a business with 150 employees, and they're making you know $20 million a year. Being a plumber.
Yeah.
I worked at Sonic Drive-In whenever I was in high school, and by the time I graduated, I thought I was going to go play football at MTSU Division One. I had all this great scholarship potential on the table, and then I made a 13 on my ACT because I'm not good at sitting and taking tests, and I'm not good at sitting still. Period. As you can tell, I always move. But
Yeah.
but I just didn't do well on the test, and so they couldn't give me a scholarship. So then it was like, okay, well now you're going to have to pay
Yeah.
for all this yourself or get loans. And I started looking at the student loans, and this is what really kind of made me think I'm not going to do that. They give you these student loans by the time you finish going the first 2 years of college is basically just more high school. It doesn't even count towards
Yeah.
really anything. I mean, it's just remedial classes for me. It would have been anyway. And it's more English and it's more math and it's more this. And it didn't even go into the things that I wanted to do in life. I wanted to do music. I thought I wanted to be a music teacher, but then at the end I saw, okay, I'm going to spend 4 years in college. I'm going to garner $100,000+ that I owe back, in debt, and that was going to a smaller college. So I know some of these people come out with $200,000 or $300,000 in debt. And then I'm going
Yeah.
to have a job that I start off at $29,000 a year, which I was already making more than that working at Sonic Drive-In. So I was like, I
Yeah.
became a general manager then at that point, and I was making about 70 grand a year at, 19 years old. And I enjoyed my job.
Yeah.
Because what I did was I was able to find the parts of the job I enjoyed, which was the marketing side of things and the community side of things. I enjoy speaking to people. I enjoy going to events and hosting events and doing all that kind of stuff. I like being a personality. So I was able to see that part of the job that was really important if you're going to have a local restaurant in a small town, at least you want them to see you every single day, not just they see you selling them stuff, but they need to see you in their community, interacting with their people. I would go to the barber shops or the hair salons, and I would go take them free chocolate shakes. I'd go to the bank and talk to the bank ladies and say, "Hey, what? Let me pay for your lunch today." And I'd give them free food. Well, guess what
Yeah.
happens when they get off work that day? They're like, "Oh, that nice man from Sonic." When they're in the conversation at the basketball game, "Oh, that nice man from Sonic brought us chocolate shakes today. You know what? We on Sunday we're going to go after church. We're going to go have our chicken dinner with them. We're going to go do this. We're going to go do that." Next thing you know, my business started growing and growing and growing because of the way I treated people. And there's a book called The Go
Yeah.
Giver. I don't know if you've ever read The Go Giver.
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
I just
check. I
never
mean, I
read it.
listen to it. I don't read anything because I have dyslexia and I get lost on the page. But I get a lot of stuff on Audible, and that book, I was already doing it naturally, but it just reaffirmed that if you give people a great experience, they're going to come back to your business, and your business is going to grow. That don't mean it's going to happen in
Yeah.
2 seconds. That don't mean I mean, business now takes place on the internet. You got to be able to put your brand out there. You got to make your reels. You got to do all your stuff. If you, my wife does online fitness, so she has to constantly go in there and make reels and let people know who she is, so they trust her enough to say, okay, here's my health. What do I need to do with it? And I think people miss that point, and they're so busy trying to tell you how great they are instead of just saying, hey, I understand you have these issues, and I want to help you solve your problem. And I think so many times we want to tell people how great we are instead of telling them how we can help them with whatever their issue is. We understand your problem. We understand what you're going through. And I think when you do that with people, when you let them know, like, I understand, I know what it's like to be 500 pounds, to be laying there in a hospital bed, to be in danger of losing your life before the age of 30. When I explain that to people and I tell them, that's my story right there. But that's also what makes me uniquely, qualified to help you with your situation, and you make it about them. How am I helping you? What am I going to change in your life, as opposed to, well, look at all the great things I did. I did this and I did that, and that was one of the things. I mean, even at the speak off, whenever I was first telling my speech for the speak off, I got into that trap of being like, oh, well, look at all this stuff I did. It makes me qualified because I did this and this and this, but I never answered the question of how can I
Mhm.
help you. And so, and that was just in that individual thing. In my daily life, I do that every day. I try to get on and add value to people. And so, anyways, I'm just saying all that to say there's so many different ways to go than just college. Um, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with college, but Tennessee now is awesome because you go to your first 2 years of community college, you're free. As long as you go to a state community college, you don't have to pay anything. Now you may still have to pay for your books, but you're not paying to go to the school. You're not paying for any of that stuff. It's all taken care of. And I think that's huge because in first 2 years being the fact that it doesn't really add much to you. It gives you an associate's degree, which doesn't get you into anything that a high school diploma doesn't get you into. It's not even really worth anything. What the cool thing is now that I'm seeing happen is a lot of jobs now are going away from demanding a bachelor's degree. They're kind of like, look, we need people,
Yeah.
and the other issue is so many people want these higher up jobs. And by the time they get out of college and they go there, they don't realize that, hey, four other, you know, the last 4 years while you've been in college, there's been somebody graduating come in for that job that went to the same college that you went to. They all want these jobs. So every year there's all these people that are graduating. Well, I got a degree in such and such. Well, so did 40 other people from your exact same school and your exact same class that are all going for that same one job, as opposed to, hey man, for the last 4 years I've been building my plumbing company, and now I've got 245 clients that I can count on every year. One of them is going to have a problem at any given time. I'm going to make $5,000 this month, from that one person. I'm going to make 2,500 this week over here and 10,000, next month over there, and next thing you know, you're making, several hundred to $1 million a year, and you just got a small little business that you can operate on your own. So, anyways, I got excited about that. You pumped me up.
Yeah, no, it's you once you open your eyes to see that there's more out there than more. There's a quote I love. It's like the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't actually
Yeah.
know. And it's like you go to these events, and it's like you'll be surprised, like what type of businesses people make businesses out of.
It,
Like it'll be the most random
yep.
stuff ever on the planet, the most hyper niche thing on the planet that you could never expect, and like they're making a business and making a couple hundred grand off of it a year,
Yeah.
and it's enough to support them and their family,
Yeah.
and they love it, right? And it may never be a multi 9-figure exit, but they're doing enough to take care of their
Yeah,
peoples. And it's like
I think that's what's happened now in our world of kind of we're wanting to learn how to be these entrepreneurs. I grew up I was a farm boy. I worked on a farm my entire life.
yeah,
I hauled hay, I picked squash and strawberries and blackberries and everything. So that was my life as a kid, and that's what I knew was physical labor. And then God blessed me with a voice. God blessed me with the ability to write songs. And I'd love to say it's like no, I studied so hard, but sometimes you have a knack for something, and I could hear music and I could sing. I could watch people on, from the stage and understand like, oh, okay, this right here makes those people react like this, which has come in handy in all my different parts of life. I can always tell when I have somebody in the palm of my hand, when I have somebody's attention versus, man, I couldn't quite get to them, and that's helped me in the speaking
yeah,
world because I've done a lot of speaking, just never like the way we did it there. And
mhm,
obviously, I've never spoke to sell. I've always been hired to speak to inspire people and motivate people, to be a story at the conference. That they paid me. The most I ever got paid was 10 grand to go and speak, in at the Beverly Hilton. Yeah, yeah, the Beverly Hilton in Beverly Hills, for a rehab conference. For people that were going through rehab, and I got to speak, before Jim Brown, which was one of the coolest
wow,
things I got to do. But they paid me 10 grand plus put me on a first class plane ticket and all this other stuff and brought me out there. And I didn't know that there's people out there getting paid $1 million, $500,000 to come out and talk for an hour. I was like, holy crap.
yeah,
Um, but also, the way Pete and them do it, they're going to sell their product. They want to be on stages that where people are going to need it. And Pete's unique product is that he wants to teach you how to get on stages to sell your product, which I think
yeah,
is fine. Whatever your product is, like you said, I had no clue that I was going to run into people that what they did, for a living, was making them that kind of money. And but for me,
yeah,
I don't. I feel like on the extreme, on one side, you got people telling you, and the older generation, I would say, like the baby boomers and stuff like that. College didn't cost them, you know, $500,000 like it does now. They get out of college and owe,
yeah,
2,500 bucks, and so I think that's kind of where we got to now. Is like, man, if you go to college, you got to be willing to know that you're in debt now. Like if, for instance, if I came to you and said, okay, I want to create a business, and you're a bank, and I said, give me $300,000 to create my business, and they'd say, okay, what's your job experience? I have none. Have you ever been successful in anything? Nope. I'm 18 years old, just graduated high school. But give me $300,000 to start my business. And they would be like, no. But you can go and say, hey, give me $300,000 over the next 4 years in college debt. And then after I get out of all that, then I'll start working in my field. And then I'll start paying you back. Like it doesn't make sense to you're basically just taking out this massive loan that you pay. My wife is still paying back her college loans. She's 43 years old. And now she went to Belmont, which is one of
yeah,
the most expensive music colleges in the world, and she's never used a degree, because her goal and her plan was to be a big old, superstar in country music. And and she was almost there. She had the almost happen 2 or 3 times that record labels were courting her and wanted to have her, but it didn't work out. And, now she's still paying it, but she's created her other business, and in a year's time, now she's created a business that she has 80 or so subscribers that work with her every single month and, come on board, and she's made more in 1 year doing her online fitness business than she made her entire life doing music. So it's
yeah,
just incredible, man. I think that, on the flip side of it, the other extreme is, oh man, the whole goal is just to get out and be a multi-bazillionaire and drive a Lamborghini and have all this, and none of that stuff means anything to me. Like I could care less. I don't even think I'd fit in a Lamborghini, but I could care less if I ever got in one. I don't care about Rolexes. I don't care about jewelry. Um, I'm just not. I'm not a materialistic guy. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with having those goals and those desires. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If it's what keeps you motivated, and pumped up, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people will say, they always quote the Bible and say, well, it's harder for a camel to get through the eye of the needle than it is for the rich man to get into heaven. And of course, that the eye of the needle was just the smaller entrance that you would use to get into a city back then. It wasn't the actual eye of a needle. But also, they forget Jesus had a treasurer. Judas was Jesus's treasurer. When you go back and you look at that, you don't have to have a treasurer if you ain't got no money. I talk to people all the time. They're like, well, Jesus wasn't a rich man. I'm like, well, he had a treasurer. Yeah, but that don't mean he was rich. I'm like, do you know anybody that has their own personal treasurer? Somebody that, a money manager that don't have any money to manage? And of course, Judas may not have been the right choice for that, but I guess he was trying to give him a chance. But no, it's just, like I said, God doesn't want you to be broke, but he wants to know that when you do make money and when you do have the things that he's blessed you with, that you're going to do something good with it, that you're going to, help other people. And I don't mean that you go out there and just give all your money away, but you do something good with what you're blessed with. I think when you do good with your blessings, God blesses you more. So.
Yeah, 100%. And when you recognize God in the smaller blessings,
Yeah.
then the larger blessings are to
Yeah.
come. And one of the things I always used to say is, like, when I used to, and we never had a car growing up, so I used to walk around
Yeah.
everywhere, and magically, right, my friend just appears. John, you need a ride? Oh yeah, where you going? I'm going to so and so. Yo, I'm going that direction. Can you come to school? Yo, and I'll be walking and it's like, yo, thank God, right? And that, little things like that happen all the time, and I try my best. Right, I'm not perfect, just like no one else
Yeah.
is, but I try my best to try and recognize God in the smaller things, because, like, if I know that I can do that, then when the larger things come, I will be able to recognize that it's him as
Yeah.
well. And so it's like, man, Vinny, we've been having a great conversation for the past like 30 minutes or so. And I feel like, honestly, we could probably keep going for another hour,
Yeah.
man. But where could we catch up with you, man? Where can we find out more about what you got going on? You post your music stuff in our Great American Speak Off group chat. But for anyone who's not in a group chat, man, where can we
Yeah.
find you at? Where can we connect with you to hear more about what you got
So
going on?
just any social media, anything on Spotify, all that kind of stuff is just Bigg BIGG. I always say I'm too big for one G. Bigg Vinny VINNY official. So Bigg Vinny official with two G's. You can find me. You can find me anywhere on there, and that's anything from um, social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and then even my Spotify. So you can find me on all those. Love to have you all follow me. I do, pretty much country music, but every now and then I'll throw something a little different in there. So, but yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and we'll do it again, man. And I definitely want to get you on my podcast as well. I didn't know how to do this type of podcast. I always just had in-person guests, but because of Akeem being on my show, he had to do it remotely, because I think are you in Tampa or where you at?
I'm in Connecticut,
Oh,
actually. I'm a little
I
bit
thought you lived
a
down
ways
there in
away.
Florida. You look like a boy.
Nah,
You got
I'm
the
up here
hair.
in
You got
Connecticut.
you look good.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. You're in Connecticut. I'll actually be. I'll land in Boston. I don't know how close that is to. I know it's up in the.
It's a bit of a
Yeah,
drive.
but then and I'll be in. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. I land in Boston. I drive to Vermont, but I'll be in the Northeast playing a show August 23rd. Because I do play shows. I
Okay.
still play live music for a living. That's my main source of income and all that. So, but cool, man. Well,
That's
look,
dope.
hey, listen, I'm blessed to know you. I
Wait,
appreciate you, and I want to learn more about your business and how I
we,
can help you as well. And we didn't get to talk about that, but I want to make sure I understand that.
yeah,
So I
no
can,
worries, man. We always got time on your podcast,
hey, it's
man.
coming.
But before we let each other go, it's time for the famous five
Oh,
questions. Same five questions I ask every single guest to wrap up. A little quick rapid fire round, Big Vinny.
man,
And question number one. Question number one is, what is the most impactful lesson that you've had in your life?
most impactful lesson that I've had in my life. Gosh, probably that time is your greatest currency. That you're never going to have more of it. The only way to create more of it is to create time freedom, which is hard to do. But just understand that when you're dealing with your kids, when you're dealing with your wife or your girlfriend or your mom or your dad, that I lost my dad whenever I was 22 years old. When I was your age, he passed away. He was only 43, and had a freak accident and passed away. And I wish so badly I would have answered the phone calls more. I wish so badly I would have spent more time with him when I had that time. So time is your greatest currency, and if you truly love somebody, make sure you find a way to give them your time.
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Authenticity is probably the most admirable trait. If you're authentic, people will know who you really are from the time they meet you. It doesn't mean everybody's going to like you, because when you're authentic, there's going to be, you're never putting on a face for somebody else. You're never doing that. It doesn't mean you shouldn't work on yourself, but be who you truly are. Be authentic. I think authenticity is the biggest way to draw people in, and you will draw the people that you truly need to have in your life when you're authentic.
If you had to change someone's life, but you only had one book, which book would you recommend? Audible counts.
I mean, it would be the Bible for me, which is not one book. It's 60, what is it, 66 books? At least, well, 66 of them we use,
Yeah,
because I think there's like
66.
200 and something books of the Bible. We only use 66 of them. But yeah, I mean, the Bible, I think, is the number one. Almost every self-help book that you see, if you really go look to to where it all came from, it really all comes from the Bible. I don't care if it's The Secret, or what was the one that was really The Secret kind of took from?
Secrets
Yeah,
of
Secret.
Success. Think and Grow
Yeah, Think and
Rich.
Grow Rich. I mean, really, every one of those lessons all come from the Bible. So get in your Bible, study.
What is the legacy that you're working on leaving behind?
I think for me, when I think about legacy, I don't really think about the monetary side of it. I think about the way that I made, the way I made people feel when they were around me, the way I made people
Mhm.
feel from my interaction on the internet. I try to avoid, the bad confrontations. Not that I haven't been caught in the trap of politics or religion or anything before, but I try my best to always sow good into the world and let people know that I love you, even if we think differently, even if we have some different thoughts on how the world should be run. I still love you and respect you, and want you to want you to thrive in life. So
And for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth today, what is the very first step you recommend they take?
I mean, first thing you got to identify is, what is it that you truly want to do? What is it that you're truly passionate about, that you would love to spend every single day doing? Because then, the money is just a side part of it. So, whenever you truly get down to it, and if you're doing it because, oh man, I heard this makes money, so I'm going to go do it, you'll be miserable in 3 to 5 years. So find the thing you're truly passionate about. You could spend the next 40, 50 years of your life doing something you hate, and never truly have success. But if you wake up every day and you go to do something that you enjoy, doesn't mean it's not going to be a struggle sometimes. Because trust me, there's been times I want to kick the music industry right in the nuts. But I've had to, to understand that God gave me a position, and a place to be, and understand His plan for me. But find something you're truly passionate about. Find something you enjoy doing, and go after that. Because if you don't, then you're going to work your whole life away, and then you'll be miserable even when you retire. So
100%, man. Vinny, that's our time here. Thanks again
yeah,
for hopping on. Enjoyed our conversation, and we got a whole lot of more conversations to come in
yeah.
the
And let
future,
me know. I
man.
don't know if you. I know you recorded everything, but if you make any reels or anything, I want to make sure I can post and tag you and all that good stuff. So